Scars, scars, and more scars. That is what today's artists have shown us. Some subtle and some painful, all through the magic of makeup. We are in Season 3 of Oscar Rewind, and today I am looking at Buena Vista International's Men and Chicken. Written and directed by Anders Thomas Jensen, the film premiered in February of 2015. What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and it is a new episode of Oscar Rewind, where I look back at the films of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of these throwbacks. Today we continue with Chapter 4, Designed for the Big Screen. This chapter is focusing on the production, costume, makeup, and hair design nominees that have thrilled the eyes of Oscar viewers. And today we are looking at the makeup work of Thomas Foldberg and Cathrine Sauerberg, who were nominated this past year for the grotesque but fascinating The Ugly Stepsister. Now, if you've never seen Men and Chicken, here's your quick spoiler-free setup. Brothers Gabriel and Elias, played by David Dencik and Mads Mikkelsen, are in mourning. Their father has passed away, and the one thing left for them is a videotaped message. Upon watching this, they learn a very shocking truth. They learn that they were actually adopted and share a different biological father, a geneticist named Evelio Thanatos, whom they have never met. Looking for answers about their past and the mothers they never knew, because they learned they also had different mothers, the brothers travel to the isolated Island of Ork, with its massive population of 42 people. Yes, even the ferry could only hold one car at a time, where Evelio once lived. However, when they arrived at the sprawling but dilapidated estate, they are greeted not by their father, but by three eccentric men. Gregor, played by Nikolai Laikas, Franz, played by Soren Malling, and Josef, played by Nicholas Bro, who claim to be their half-brothers. Now, the reunion is anything but warm, and Gabriel and Elias soon find themselves trying to fit into a household governed by strange routines, sibling rivalries, and more than a few bizarre customs that may have you turning your head. Now, as they get to know one another, they realize that they all share somewhat similar facial anomalies and scarring, though some have undergone corrective procedures while others have not, which creates another source of tension within this household. Gabriel and Elias each take to this new environment differently. While Elias quickly settles into the chaos, Gabriel becomes increasingly suspicious that his newfound family is hiding something. As he digs deeper into the history of the house and the man who brought them all together, he begins to realize that there may be far more to his family's story than he ever could have imagined. Additionally, as they piece together town history, they have some interesting interactions with the mayor of the island, played by Ole Thestrup, and his eccentric daughter Ellen, played by Bodil Jorgensen. Now, as the brothers spend more time together, old secrets begin to surface, forcing them to reckon with questions of identity and family and figuring out where do they truly belong. On paper, this is a quirky film that should work, and in some respects it does. Mikkelsen and Dencik as the outsiders have an interesting rapport that works, and they lean into the absurdity of the circumstances. Each gets an opportunity to also engage in some interesting physical comedy, as we see that their brothers Gregor, Franz, and Josef are in some ways a much more violent and slightly less funny Three Stooges, especially when it comes to violence as a means of communication and love. Ultimately, it's the performances that keep the film engaging, even with an out-there storyline that is a little bit underdeveloped. As the film starts to dip a little bit more into the sci-fi elements, and I'm not going to spoil those, the film tends to lose its focus and sets out to accomplish more than it is able to. I mean, there's so much wasted time with trying to solve the aforementioned mystery that once somewhat solved, things get a bit rushed, and the rationale for why these five are how and why they are is skirted over a bit and leaves you wishing that they had dug a little bit deeper into the surface than done some side plot actions. Visually, though, I will say this film is something. The broken down Island of Ork, this dilapidated village, it's fascinating, and the once grand estate that they're in has some entertaining setups within the walls. And the reason that we're here, the makeup, This film, I mean, nowhere to the extremes of The Ugly Stepsister, but a lot of it is in the facial scarring and anomalies that are crafted on the five men that are so expertly designed and incorporated that I honestly couldn't tell if some of these performers were wearing makeup or just had some of these markings that were accentuated. Usually you can tell when the makeup is, okay, that's makeup. Here you really couldn't. And as we have seen with many of the films in this chapter, it's really the visuals and the performances that help carry these slightly weaker stories. Now, let's talk about the box office and the awards. After the film's run, it made $30,207 domestically and $4,735,265 internationally for a worldwide take of $4,765,472. Critically, the film is at an 84% on the tomato meter from 57 reviews and a 73% popcorn meter from over 500 audience reviews. Award season-wise, the film had over a dozen nods and wins, with the majority of them being at the Robert Awards, the Danish equivalent of the Oscars, where it was nominated for 10 awards: Best Film, Original Screenplay, Mikkelsen for Actor, Jorgensen for Supporting Actress, Costume Design, Visual Effects, and the Audience Award. The other three were wins for Bro for Supporting Actor, Production Design, and The Reason We Are Here. Sauerberg and Foldberg, along with Morten Jacobsen, won Best Makeup. After all this, I'm really hard-pressed, much as I love this concept, but Men in Chicken for me is just 3 stars. It's an interesting concept that doesn't get quite pushed far enough, with some fun performances and interesting visuals. If you haven't seen Men in Chicken, it is currently streaming on Tubi and Plex with ads, as well as available on most platforms for rental or purchase. And that's it for episode 34 of Oscar Rewind Season 3. If you enjoyed this episode and want to check out the others, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, check to the playlist, and let me know in the comments, what's your favorite absurdist comedy? Please follow me on all social media platforms and Letterboxd, and check out my website, cinephilemike.com, for more exclusive cinematic content. I will see you all for the next rewind, but until then, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.